Hi folks, like many things, I looked on YouTube to see if there was a video on how to remove the roof liner from a Mercedes Citan van. I imagine it's very similar to a Renault Kangoo, but there was no videos on that either. I don't normally do this kind of video, but I figured I've figured this all out, why not share it with some other people and hopefully it'll help you out. I'm actually nearly finished the job now, but I never recorded this part at the start of the process. So just removing the sun visors before you can get the parcel shelf off. There's a hook there and a Torx bolt there, and that'll remove that from there. So that hook goes into the lip there. So once you've undone your Torx bolt, make sure you pull this towards you and don't just yank down on it. Alright, so I'm happy I'm done. Before you remove the overhead shelf, there is this little thing to remove. I don't actually know what it is. I asked the guy at the Mercedes garage what it was. He didn't know either. But it's just sitting above the driver's seat, clipped in on a wire. So yeah, be really careful when you're removing wires. There's usually a push clip and then you pull on the plastic. Don't pull on the wire, because if you damage the wires, they're probably really tough to replace. Before you remove the overhead shelving, there's this little sensor. You can just remove this by pulling up. It's just on with a couple of clips, really gentle, and then you'll have to remove the wiring carefully. If you're watching this video, then you're probably already familiar with the sorts of trim clips that they hold trimming vehicles with. I'd recommend getting some plastic trim tools. I got a set that includes a metal one for anything that's really hardy. I prefer to use the plastic ones to reduce scratching and damage to any of the clips with overforcing. I've actually finished the job and I've put this in really tight, so I'm not going to show you how to do it, but basically you get your trim tool behind the clip, you prise it a bit. I work around in like sort of right angles, and then you can usually get your tool behind the trim, not just behind the clip, and that minimizes any breakages and damage to your trim. I did damage one clip when I was pulling this plastic panel out, but fortunately when I was doing the roof liner, I didn't damage anything. I'm finished now, but this is going to appear earlier in the video. This is the overhead storage shelf out of the van, and I just wanted to show you the crux of getting this out. So once you've undone everything you can do so far, over the top you've got this clip, which you need to push that forward by reaching over and pulling down simultaneously. Alright, and that'll disengage. Another one at the other side. So get a long tool, like some sort of trim tool, push that, pull down, that'll be disengaged. Then these clips are actually tightened by the bolt holding the sun visor clip up. And actually what you want to do is not remove that bolt completely, so loosen it, and when you push up on the bolt, simultaneously pulling down, that'll release this, and it should just fall away at that point. These are the last bolts that you undo, the last fixing. Because if you look at that, when you tighten, where is it? When you tighten that bolt, it pulls down this clip, because there's a little square nut in there that I nearly lost, so watch out for that. When you tighten the bolt, it squashes the clip and expands it. Whereas when you push up on the bolt, so keep your screwdriver in your hand, push up on the bolt, alright, push up on that bolt, and it actually sort of extends the clip and makes it easier to get in and out. Alright, so I wish I knew that before I did this, because I did excessive force and I really thought I was going to break it. So that's probably the crux part of getting this thing out. Don't try to just bend it to unhook this thing. I did that on both sides and had to hook it back up. Got away with it though. So I'm just reinstalling the overhead storage. It easily just hooks on, and then the two fixed clips, one at each side, hold it up, and then you can get the other fixings in, which are with the sun visors. Don't be fooled, there are no clips around the light fitting holding that up. They're just guiding it into place. There's no clips to undo around here. Obviously you can just connect the light and that clips back up and like so. Alright. This clip is proving very tricky to get back in. So we already looked at how it expands when you tighten the bolt, but also on the side here there's some tiny bits sticking out. Just trying to get this in focus for you. It likes focusing on my face, but you can see those little bits sticking out at either side, so they're stopping me getting it back into the hole. So you've got to do something about them. I'm going to try taping them up. If that fails, I might just trim a bit of that plastic off so I can get it back into the hole. So I've put a bit of aluminium tape on that. Hopefully that's going to help guide those tabs in. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to pull on this as I push up. I think the tape, I don't know if the tape's doing anything. It should be flush before you start screwing that bolt in. Doesn't seem to be wanting to go. No, it's just made a mess of the tape. Alright, so I'm going to take a Stanley blade and trim a bit of that off. So I've trimmed a bit off those side tabs on this clip. You can see the other one is probably worse, those tabs sticking out the side. That's because I've really gave it hell. And hopefully this is going to now go sail in. Alright, I'm going to be gentle with it this time. Alright, come on mate, go on in. Okay, now we're flush, and now I can start tightening that bolt. Happy days! That'll lock up nicely! This is what it looks like when you've got the overhead storage removed, lights unwired, and we've got these beastie hooks here. Pretty straightforward to come off. You gotta undo that cover, squeeze these tabs together, and then it's just a big hook above. So yeah, squeeze the tabs, you got that beastie hook holding that in. Alright, so don't just yank on it, squeeze those tabs. This is one of the key points in removing the headliner. You've got this little cover here, and there's a hook on that side and a push clip that side. What you have to do is actually push the headliner in and then undo the clip by pushing on it on this side. Probably break it on this occasion, watch. And then that'll come forward. But he should. There we go. Alright, and it reveals a Torx nut, for which not many people will have the socket for. I don't have the socket for it, so this is going to have to wait until tomorrow when the shop's open to get one. This Torx socket bolt actually has come undone with a 10mm socket. Fortunately it's not too tight. If it was tighter I would have risked rounding the bolt head and making that even more difficult to get off. So fortunately I can get on with my job and not have to wait for shops for a tool. I've enlisted Zoe's help in removing the headliner. You can see it's pretty much hanging on by a thread, and that thread is this bit of tape holding the wire for the middle light. So I'm gonna unstick that tape, and I don't think there's much else holding it in. And another bit more tape. Oh, 2 bits of tape. Just thought I'd quickly show you the insulation before the headliner goes back on. I've tried to cover as much as possible while leaving things like the clip holes free and the front there where I think it's going to be pretty tight to get it back on. So if I run into any trouble getting it back on with insulation in the way, I'll let you know. I'm going to insulate this beam as well just before it goes back on, but leave those clip holes free. I've taped the wires to the ceiling this time instead of to the headliner, and this is 6mm insulation. I bought the small van kit from Dodomat, and underneath this 6mm insulation is this, which is the sound deadening. I wasn't sure about using it at first, but I tested out the panel at the back and it made a real big difference. And as I'm going to be sleeping in here and it rains a lot in Scotland, so yeah, I've sound deadened all of this. About 6 of these sheets under here, and I find it works best if you start in the corners and the edges and then finish off in the middle and just do a little tap test to check you're happy. Alright, hopefully I've got the cable routing right. Again, I'll let you know if I run into any troubles. The one thing about the small van kit, I would have liked a little bit more, maybe about 1 meter squared more, to do a double layer at the back here, because this is 6mm insulation. It's not actually that thick, so I might buy some more to do the back there. Just getting the headliner in place. Didn't really need to take these seals off when removing it, but I think to prevent damage to the headliner, removing the top parts of those is probably a good idea. And then the trim on the A-pillar at the front left, we've unclipped that, but didn't have to do it at the right, so I'm hopefully going to just slot it in there and clip that one back in, and then push it up on top of the B-pillar supports and then get these seals back in. This clip is proving tricky to refit. I've put some soap suds on it to help lubricate it into the hole, but by its design, expanding when you tighten the bolt, I feel like it's not making a clipping sound when you push it back in. I'm gonna have a go this time at just pushing it in not too far. There's also some tabs at the side that sort of stick out a bit. That might be stopping it. See those little bits sticking out just either side? Alright. That might be stopping it getting into the hole. Yes, I think that's what it is. They also expand. Okay, so that is the Mercedes Citan headliner and parcel shelf out and back in insulated. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Most of my other videos will be on mountaineering and bike tours, so if you're interested in that sort of stuff, do subscribe to the channel. And I'm a mountain guide based up in the Highlands, so if you do need a mountain guide, I travel back to Newcastle as well, so I can guide in the north of England. Happy to travel for any sort of guiding work. So if you're interested in that, do get in touch. Check out my website, notaboutthesummit.com, and you can just give me a call if you want guiding. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and good luck with your work on your little van. Enjoy.